Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to Sangat Studios. We have with us today the president of Sikh Games, Mandeep Kaur, and the regional lead, Gurpreet Singh. Welcome to Sangat Studios.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Thank you so much, Benji.
It's really nice to have you guys here today talking about Sikh Games. It's just around the corner, and we would love to share with the audience your vision, how it's coming to life, and just talking generally about how you got here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the UK's first Sikh Games, they're taking place from the 15th to the 18th of August. So we're really, really excited about them. The vision and how we got there, I think, we have to say thank you to Australia, because that's where the inspiration comes from. They've been happening there for 36 years now. They have 150 to 200,000 people that come together every year. They do it on a rotational basis around their 6 major cities. And for me, it was just family that lived out there that would always talk about the Sikh Games. And I used to always just wonder, what are these Sikh Games? Why don't we have them in the UK? And then, I think 2020, about 4 years ago now, we set them up for the UK.
Amazing. And you also mentioned it's not just Australia that does the Sikh Games. There's other countries that also do this. So from Australia, that's something that's inspired other
countries. So quite close by to Australia, you've got New Zealand. They started their Sikh Games in 2019. Also New Jersey, they started theirs in 2016. And then you've got India, who started their first national tournaments in January 2020, just before we went into lockdown.
Amazing. I was looking at the itinerary of the Sikh Games, and it's like you've got roti making competitions.
Yeah.
And you've got so much fun stuff happening on the side.
etc.
Bug tying, and you've got Punjabi lessons. I mean, I wouldn't put myself forward for that for sure.
Punjabi speaking, not the lesson.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Punjabi
actually, someone
speaking.
can get the lesson.
I think I'd learn a lot. I think I learned a new word today. You are Sartaaj of Birmingham.
That's right. The lead Sartaaj.
Although we were debating between Sarpanch and Lumbardar today, I think, as well.
Yeah, 2 new words I've learned today. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So have there been any major challenges you faced, trying to put this competition together?
Yeah, I mean,
I think, all credit to Mandy, to be fair, because she knew about Sikh Games from Australia. And, I think I remember you mentioning you were waiting for somebody to do this Upara here in the UK, like some uncle or some Babaji is going to, or the Gurdwara committees are going to get together. And, in that sense, the UK is really behind, like Australia, New Zealand, like you mentioned, Germany, etc. They're all India ahead of us. And the biggest Sikh population outside of Punjab, one of the biggest, is here in the UK. And, we've really lost our way when it comes to representing Sikhs in sport. We see boxers now, etc., coming forward and in lots of different sports, but there's no real grassroots initiative. And Mandy, all credit due to her, has spearheaded this, and we're trying to get it going in a big, spectacular way. This could be the biggest. And one of the things that you mentioned was this will be the biggest sort of organization globally
for Sikhs.
Worldwide. That's how big this can get. It's actually, it's huge how far this can go.
Yeah. I was reading about the stats about representation of Sikhs in things like the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
And how important this is.
Yeah.
And identity, the star tying competitions, that would be such a dominant part of the games. And not only that, the spiritual side of it, like you mentioned, you're going to have Japji Sahib, you're going to have Leras, and you're going to have Kirtan, and you're going to have famous performers that are going to be doing Dharmik Geet.
For the opening ceremony. That was, with it, even doing an opening ceremony, to really be able to showcase and give that exposure to our community, because actually sports competitions, there have been a lot of people that have been doing sports competitions in the UK. Organisations like the KFF, they've been doing them for literally over 30 years. There's been a lot happening, but I think now it's just a case of doing something on a kind of a national level, where there was kind of a desire to try and actually bring our community together, because we often, and you find this with most competitions, the competition gets run and that gets announced and people sign up. Whereas over here, what we've tried to do is made an active effort to work out where our Sangat is in the UK, studied the 2011-2021 census, created a regional model. Now, this is not the kind of regional model you go to a geography teacher with.
Okay.
They would say Southall is not a region, but it is a Sikh region because we've got a good number of people there, and we've kept Hounslow separate. Because over time, how do we maximize the number of formation that we have of teams? Like, why from London would we have one team when we could create 6 teams? We've got the ability to create 6 teams in 6 different areas. So, we want to be able to maximize that. And really that, I think, has definitely been our biggest challenge, because obviously you're trying to mobilize, not just, mobilizing, organizing an event on one side, which again has loads of other moving parts to it. But then it's having a whole team dedicated to actually going and getting the community involved, to signing up to represent their region. But that has also been, I think, our biggest asset as well, because when we all come together every 2 weeks, that drive and energy and that connection we've all built with each other as, people from one part of the country to another part of the country, they're talking to each other like almost every single day to try and mobilize this project. And you've got the Sangat you've got the Sevadars on the ground all over the UK talking about the Sikh Games.
It's so powerful. Like, it's the way I think one of the challenges we have is supporting each other and helping us grow. And I'm sure that's something you've probably faced during this challenge. And to hear about this, how you're connecting and bringing people together, that's really, really beautiful. It's powerful. And what I wanted to kind of know a little bit is, as a regional lead for Birmingham, how are you helping those in Birmingham? What's entailed, and how are you bringing people together?
Yeah, so further from what Mandy was talking about, if we've got these hubs, like we've built communities, Sikh communities, we've got Gurdwara, so those are the real centres of where you can really communicate to the local Sangat. So in Birmingham, and I can speak on behalf of all the other regional leads as well, that's the first place to go really, is to work with the local Gurdwara and try and get them on board, because some of them have teams, sports teams already, whether it's a football team or a cricket team or a kabaddi team, and they've got Sikh athletes. And if we can, and in the UK there's 300 odd Gurdwaras, so some regions have more than others, there's more concentration. But as Sikh Gurdwara here in the UK, there's such a wide range of Gurdwara, and different communities of Sikhs as well. But that's not what sport's about, is it? It's not about even if there are any small differences between Sikhs, sports brings everybody together. It's all about, what's the result. If it's a football match, if it's 1-0, it's not what's different about you and me. At the end of the day, we're all Sikhs, and that's the most beautiful thing about this. So even in Birmingham, there's, I think, 24 odd Gurdwara, and they're all of a different varieties and flavours, but we're not here to discuss all of that. But this thing brings everyone together.
Ultimately, it's Ekta. That's what you're trying to do.
That's Ekta. The team names can't be according to any Jathebandi or any caste system. The team names are purely that one thing that's connecting all of us, and that's the word Sikh. So it'll be Birmingham Sikh women's football, Birmingham Sikh women's hockey. Because for far too long, actually, people have this reluctance of joining a team because they're like, oh, well, we don't want to join that because that's a Singh Sabha, or that's a Ramgarhi, or this is this. Take all of that out, because Sikhi was, that element of equality comes when we all come together. And we've noticed, like anything that we've done well as a community, it's always been when we've come together. When we've put all those differences aside, when we've come with complete equality.
The biggest example, just a few years ago, the farmers' protest, we didn't talk about any of this casteism or Jathebandism or this, that or the other. Everyone came together, and look at the difference we made. In mankind's history, it was huge. And we can do the same every time we come together as Sikhs. And I think people forget that message. Or, it's just not preached enough. The breadth and the love and the pyar in Sikhi is so wide. And that's what the message we want to get across through sport.
Absolutely. And I think also when we think about sport, it doesn't really, like how religious you are, where your politics sit, none of that comes into play. Sport is just one of those things that has the ability and the power to just bring people together. It has the power to actually build nations, and actually that's something that we've that is the next step, but actually the kind of step we've also been taking now as well. But one of the first people I actually spoke to when we thought about, setting up the Sikh Games, after convincing other people to try and set up the Sikh Games for a year, when I realised that actually, no, I'm going to have to do it, where I picked up the phone, spoke to a guy called Navjot Singh, and he used to organise the Khalsa Aid cricket tournament. And I said to him, Navjot, I'm setting up this project. This is my trial run for saying I'm setting up the project. And I said, we're going to be setting up the Sikh Games. It's been happening in Australia for this many years. We don't have anything like this in the UK. And the first thing he said to me was, I cannot believe I've never heard of it. And he said, whatever you need, I'm with you. Let's make it happen, And the second thing he said to me was, have you ever heard of the Maccabi Games? So I know Baji's heard of them now.
Yeah, I've heard of them now.
But I don't know if you've ever heard of the Maccabi Games. Dori, I thought I knew everything about sport. I never heard of them either. So the Maccabi Games are essentially the Jewish Olympics.
All right.
So the Jewish community have been getting together on a worldwide scale for the last 80 years. They've got teams going from England, from Europe, teams, to my surprise, even going from India, because I didn't know we had a Jewish community actually living in India. But they've got them coming from all over the world to come together through sport, through this one sporting initiative. So Navjot actually said to me, he said, Mandeep, he goes, why are we only going to do it on a national level? Why don't we do it on a global level? And I remember this conversation. I think it's probably, it was the best conversation I've ever had in my life. And I remember being so we're in COVID. I'd just done a speech talking about how South Asians are very adversely affected by COVID because of the lack of fitness and the lack of looking after, what their healths. And we were severely impacted as a community. And then at that point, I just remember getting up from my chair, walking around, and we're 10 years from now, we're going to host the world's first ever global Sikh Games. How many countries do we have? We can't have 3 or 4. Let's have 15 countries. And, I feel like sometimes it's just putting stuff out there in the universe. You're doing something. You're doing it to bring your qawm together. You're doing something to make your qawm fitter, healthier. The vision is to have Har Maidan Fateh. You're doing something. Maharaj somehow, I don't know how, but finds a way of connecting you with people that you would have never, ever even thought about connecting with. And, we've been helping, having conversations with Malaysia, with Singapore, with South Africa, with France, with Greece, with Germany, with Italy, with Canada, there's, and of course the UK. And in 4 years to even start having those conversations. So what we're saying is very much like what Baji mentioned, it is about everyone coming together. We should see everyone's success as our own. If we've got a girl, in Southampton that's winning, the day she wins, every single Sikh around the world wins that day. The day you have someone winning in Canada, in politics, for example, the day they win, every single Sikh around the world wins that day, because we have to see it as all these people that we've got. I've got, for example, my brother, he's got 3 children. I treat them like my nephews and nieces. But when I think about them, I think I want them to be able to have all these different people to look up to. And up until we don't get to that level where we're celebrating the success of all these other Sikhs and promoting them and encouraging them and having that positive mindset, we are not creating the people we want them to be like. For example, I'm a lawyer. I don't want my niece to think, oh yeah, I'm going to be like my Poo, I'm going to be a lawyer, or I'm going to be like my mum, I'm going to have a business.
Things outside of
There's
that.
so many things. You want to show her footballers. You want to show her powerlifters. You want to show her politicians. You want to show her every other Sikh that's doing well. And we're through the Sikh Games, we're also trying to have, all the ambassadors, for example, you guys met Meva Singh, one of our ambassadors. We've got so many great ambassadors that have done so well in sport, and we're looking to utilize this project to also shine a spotlight on them. Share their journey ultimately to the benefit of the whole qawm.
And I don't think we see enough of them. I don't think we know of them enough. I mean, we've got people like Monty Paness, everyone knows him. And then we've got
also one of the ambassadors.
One of the ambassadors, and the ones you've got on your page, they're quite commonly known. But then you bring someone in like Meva Singh, he's an amputee, and he's doing amazing tournaments of badminton with with an amputee leg, which he had a leg. But he said, I want to get up and I don't want to be called, in the
Paralympics.
And when you look at his age and you see the representation and you see his passion, and I think there's also the thing about, it's not what you say, it's what you do. And I think this is really important for what you do. And one way of showing what you do in terms of how we embrace Sikhi into this all is the opening, is the part, the bani, the ardas that comes along with it. Because if they don't see it, how do you practice that on a daily and appreciate Maharaj is always with us. So therefore we have to put that as a first.
Absolutely. And it's almost like, you know, when you do any sort of prachar, there have been so many great organizations that have spent so much time doing prachar, and it's helped us a lot. But I think there's so many positive messages in Sikhi which we don't actually talk about publicly. You know, when we think about the Sikh games, they're not just open to Sikhs, they're open to everybody. Because if you look at Sikhi historically, you know, women in this country only got a vote 100 years ago. 400 years ago, you had women like Mai Pago leading armies of men. That is the reality of Sikhi. It's always been ahead. It's the thought process, the education has always been to empower and lift everybody up. You know, when we think, why do we have this distinct recognition as Sikhs? Why do we have, you know, why are they wearing a dastar? That is so that they can be recognized. So anybody that needs help, they can recognize them. A Khalsa is a Kalpur ki Fauj. And we don't even put those messages out there, you know, and we
need to start normalizing this.
Yeah, we need to start normalizing these conversations.
Basically.
And celebrating.
And celebrating it.
And celebrating it, because actually we get so, you know, we can't play the victim. We're not a Qawm that is ever going to play the victim. We're a Qawm that is, you know, we've got so many shahadatan, so many shaheed Singhs, you know, that we can think about. We can take so many lessons away from them. The more we think about that, and the more we talk about that to our next generation, it's not so that, you know, it's not, you know, it's something that when you give people their faith and where they are on their faith, that is a gift to them. That doesn't benefit that is a gift to that person because they've got a hope, they've got something that they can always rely on. And with the hope and desire of being able to, in the opening ceremony, end the opening ceremony, but open up the Sikh games with an ardas to talk about why Sikhs do an ardas, to give that exposure to the people in our community that perhaps wouldn't have had that education otherwise, but are now getting it through the element of sport. I mean, that in itself is just going to be, you know, something so nice for us all as Sikhs. You know,
educational at the same time.
Absolutely.
Because there is, you know, there's the faith, Sikh faith, then you've got the Punjabi culture. And, you know, in my industry, with what I do, I see the Punjabi culture at weddings and events and stuff. And it's culture versus spirituality, isn't it? And it's, people don't even know how to stand up in an ardas. And it is sad, that is the day, that is the world we're living in at the moment, the etiquettes, just the respect, you know, like when our guru's talking, we don't talk, you know, all these little elements. And I'm hoping that this gives us that little bit of soji, that little bit of education, and hopefully, like you said, hope and faith in who we are as the Sikh Qawm.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, you know, it's about connecting as well, right? Because when we got these singers, you know, like we've got in the opening ceremony, we've got Satinder, Sartaaj, Jazzy, Dhami. To do at that level, you've got 6,000 people, you've got a massive stadium to have and to be able to showcase a taram, to be able to showcase gatka displays, to be able to showcase, you know, the fact that everybody's coming together with a Nishan Sahib and we're doing Deshiva Barmoye hai, followed by an ardas. To be able to exhibit the power of the Panth and the taram, you know, it's going to be something like we've never seen before. And really what we just want to do is make sure that as much of our community is there to be able to witness history in the making. Because we've never done something like this, you know, even though, you know, there's, and you know, Baji Huni that organise the Sikh Games in Australia, you know, they've done like amazing things. And I feel like we're all, in a way, it's not a competition. April 2030 will be a competition. But at the moment, it's like, it's so much that we're learning from each other to amplify and get that message up. Because again, the more we do it and the more we encourage other communities, other countries to also do this kind of stuff, the better Sikhi is and the better Sikhi is perceived in the world, you know?
And I think, you know, how you were talking about a little bit earlier about Punjabi culture, if you take that on its own, there's a lot of loud examples of Punjabi culture, isn't there?
Yeah.
If you take Sikhi on its own, there's a lot of loud examples of Sikhi, Prachar or the Gurdwara, you know, those two things separately, they can be loud individually.
Yeah.
But what this is doing. It's like a genesis and celebrating all types of Sikhs, whatever part of the journey that you're on, whether at the beginning you've just discovered what the word Sikh means, or you're a Khalsa, you know, Kirstari Singh, etc., etc. But, you know, like Mandy said, top Punjabi artists in a stadium, lots of people, the breadth of Sikhi, all different types, and you're making Sikhi loud amongst that new Sangat, just like Sangat TV. It's a brand new Sangat, all connected through sport, and it's something to celebrate, something different, you know, and people can learn in that Sangat, in that environment. And it's a completely different vibe, isn't it, to what's out there at the moment.
But also, I think, you know, with that, even though we're trying to showcase that, but even as a Sanstha, as an organisation ourselves, everything we do, we try and stay true to those values. So when we think about equality, I mean, this is the UK's the first one we've got a female president, but also we've got women on the board. So we've got 50-50 board. We've got women on the advisory board as regional leads, Sartaaj or Lambardar. Okay. Lambardar. And
we should put a vote out there. Sartaaj or Lambardar.
Yeah, what do you like the sound of more? But, you know, with our regional leads as well, we've made it compulsory to have a male and female. Because actually, you don't see that in sport. Because not just in Sikh or like culturally or Punjabi, you know, in sport generally, you don't have that equality.
Did you find it hard with the women?
And recruiting
leads,
teams. So we've got hockey women teams. We've got
like for the leads as well. Did you
for leads. Do you know what? I feel like with the women, some of them you do have to convince them.
Yeah.
Because I feel like some of them have had, like they just didn't think that this was something that they would do, because they were like, oh yeah, we know this guy, he's really good at, you know, and I was like, no, but what about you? And, you know, and what you would find really interesting is, what I found really interesting is, we originally went and approached a lot of people that we thought were going to be really, really active in sport. You know, for example, like we had, but the people that pushed it, and the women that have gotten involved and pushed it the most have been women that have a genuine desire to just bring the GOM together. And I think sometimes that is the trigger point. So you have to understand and realise that actually everybody's on their own journey. The drive to get involved for each person is going to be completely different. Some people are doing it because they've got kids and they see that, okay, we've got our kids, they've not been able to do a lot of stuff in sport because of these reasons. And actually, the more we push a project like this, the more opportunities we create. Because let's face it, you know, people will select Sikh children, but then when the main events and tournaments happen, they're on the bench. But, you know, on social media, they've announced that they've got, you know, all these South Asian children on their, you know, in their club. But the reality is they don't get as much exposure when it comes to the tournaments as, you know, people that are, you know, like well, we can't say British because we're all British as well, but, you know, English,
Caucasian,
you know, Caucasian people will get. So it's not just, you know, we have to, when we think about sport, and it's been a learning thing, because actually, I'm going to be completely honest, this isn't a project that was created in a vacuum or a silo. And I know Baji is very, very kind, and he says, Mandy, that, you know, she's doing well. But actually, no, it's not the case, because this whole thing about making it global, that was someone completely different. That was their idea. But all we have to do is open up our hearts and open up our ears, listen to what's going on, listen to everybody's ideas, because this is a project that should feel like everybody else's.
It's not an I thing, it's a we thing, isn't it?
It's a we thing. And the minute we start thinking with the mindset that these Sikh games belong to you as much as they belong to me, because these are going to be around far longer than we're not going to be sat here one day. And this is something that we have to create in such a way so it carries on beyond our time, and over time it actually gets better and better and better and better. And I often think that, you know, when we think about the way in which the organisation is created, do it in such a way that you leave it, that the next person that's going to take on this seva is like looking forward to doing that seva and isn't scared of doing that seva, you know, because you've tried to set it up in such a way. But where you have the way in which the organisation is done, it's been a lot of ideas that have come from actually working with our community, working also with the governing bodies and talking to them about their ideas. And then there's a lot of work that we now need to do around when you come to the Sikh Games. It's not just about the 6 competition sports and the 3 non-sporting competitions. There's also over 20 different activators. So, for example, British wrestling is going to be there for 8 hours on the Saturday.
Right.
And in those 8 hours, they're going to deliver 7 sessions, which are from the ages of 3 up to people in their 70s.
Oh, wow.
Right? So there's 7 different activators, which are just to learn how to play that sport and get involved.
Anyone that comes, say, for example, my kids might want to say, I want to go and join and learn wrestling.
Yeah.
So do they have to book a slot or they just turn up?
Through the Sikh Games app. Yeah. So when you get a ticket, you get allocated a ticket ID, and then what you do is, and the ticket is so cheap, for the 3 days of the Sikh Games, this is opening ceremony is a completely separate event, but there's 3 days of the Sikh Games, the ticket for a child is only £10.
Okay.
They get to watch all the competitions, they get to try out over 20 different sports from proper, like the main clubs or the professional bodies. Then you get to attend over 20 different lectures. You get different sports activities happening there. You get evening events. You get fed. You've obviously got langar. All of that in £10 for the 3 days. Adult price is only £20 because we wanted to make sure it was affordable and our Sangat actually made the most of it. And to be able to give that exposure to the Sangat is really important. But with those sessions that we're looking to do, so with those 7 sessions that you've got, there's going to be an 8th session, and the 8th session is going to be on coaching and officiating.
Oh, okay.
So if, for example, you say, right, my local Gurdwara, I want to set up a wrestling club in there. But before I do that, before I go and commit to doing a level 1 coaching course, let me go to the Sikh Games and try an hour of coaching of
like a
wrestling.
taster.
A taster. Let me go try an hour with England netball. Let me go try an hour of being a football coach, because all the governing bodies were saying to us, we're really looking for South Asian women to become football coaches. The ECB was saying to me, Mandy, if you've got any women that want to become, cricket coaches, they've been saying it actually beyond the Sikh Games. When I was doing Sabre at Shepherd's Bush, it's been 5-6 years that they've been hammering that message. They want to try and get women to become, more coaches in the cricket industry. I spoke to England Boxing, they were saying the same thing. But actually, when we're doing a stall and you're standing in front of someone for like 2 or 3 minutes and you're like, Benji, how would you like to become a boxing coach? How about a cricket coach? We're not realistic. So we thought, why don't we build it all into the Sikh Games? You've got the competitions running, but you've got all these activators. So when you arrive on Friday at 9 o'clock, you should know what session you're going to. You should be able to know at 10 o'clock, what could you try at 10 o'clock?
Okay.
At 1 o'clock, you say, okay, I'm going to go and have my langar. And then at 3 o'clock, this is actually happening at 3 o'clock. I've got all these options. Let me go and try out that activator.
Okay.
So you're actually taking something away. It's not just a tournament. It's a whole festival.
It's so inspiring because you normally turn up to these events and these sporting things and kids go watch it. And, they've been there for an hour or 2 watching a game. Then they leave and it's all fun and games. But physically, it's... it's
you get tired waiting around.
You do get tired, but I think also, you can spark one child off, and inspire them to something that actually, can I do this? Am I allowed to do this? And every child, every mum and dad probably want their child to be academic and stuff, and not all children want to go down that route. They might be an artist or they might want to be something else, or and sports. I think. I remember my dad telling me he used to love sports when he was young. They're like, "Nahi, tu apna kar, padhai kar." And and if they had invested that time into him, who knows what that could have gone. But just holding
but
the
private
generations
schools,
back.
if you look at private schools, when you go onto a private school's website, what's the thing that they advertise? Their rugby pitches, they advertise their cricket pitches. It is all about sport.
Yeah.
And for example, I went to a sports college. I specifically chose to go to a sports college when I went to high school. I was like, this is the one I want to go to, because everyone had found out that the National Lottery had invested in this school in Southall. And I was like, this is the one I want to go to. And 5 days of the week, I used to train 6 sports. But what did that mean? That meant when I came back home, the time window that I had between having my food and going to bed and doing my homework, it meant there was no procrastination. There was no time to sit around and mope around or TV or do anything. It was just like, get home, eat, food, thing. And then if I didn't do my homework, I wouldn't be allowed to go to my sports because then I needed to balance that.
Yeah.
So actually, you learn so much discipline from sport. You learn about teamwork. You know, I used to be the captain of the basketball team. And there was a point I was just like, I actually didn't think I was the best person at basketball. But, you know, in any event, one thing you realize is in a team, you realize where your strengths are. You realize that you as a person, you're going to go in there as an individual. Yeah, you're going to play well, but you have to have a strategy of how you're going to get the best people, because as a team, you need to win, because you could be as great as you can running around, but until all of your team and you're getting that ball in that net, you're not winning.
But it's not all about winning. I think failure gives you big lessons
100%,
too. I think
100%.
some of the biggest lessons in failure. And if you don't win, and I think this is a strong
you need
message.
a balance. Yeah,
like,
you need a balance.
If you don't win, this is growth.
Yeah.
And you need to learn how to change that failure into power.
Yeah, and strategize.
And I think that is a message that, you know, even though we may not have won, we can try better next time. And it's that self-development.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think there's a growth in that too.
Oh, 100%. And sport is like a prime example of that. If you look at Fodja Singh, for example, how old was he when he started going into marathons, right?
And he's over 108 now.
No, 114.
114 years old.
114 in April this year, yeah. So it's you've got sport is one of those things that only the more time you give it, the more it's going to evolve. Your body has no limits.
Yeah.
You know, and then this is the other element. If there is a limit and you have a disability, there's 6 disability sports that you're going to have at the Sikh Games. So that was another thing that we were really keen on doing. You know, we have, if we're going to have 6 competitions, we're also going to have 6 disability sports so people can try out. You know, so we're imploring all the governing bodies to say, that's fine, you're going to come and do that session, but we need you to also do a session on disabilities, because we're trying to promote that. Because we're trying to say that, and this isn't just with our community. I mean, obviously we've got the issue of the only dialogue we really realistically have had when it comes to disability is whether or not wheelchairs are allowed in a Gurdwara.
Okay, yeah.
And then if that wheelchair is allowed, are we going to let that wheelchair go to the front, or does it need to be at the back? And there's been situations where it's like, no, it needs to actually be outside.
Yeah.
When do we stop to think about the person that sits inside that wheelchair and what our responsibility is to empower them physically and mentally? And how do we stay true to our values of equality unless we actually make this open to everybody? You know, and even with the team sports, you know, there's an allowance of 10% for other communities, because we're appreciative of the fact that there are a lot of other communities that haven't done projects like this. And Sikhi, even if you look at the time of Sarkar-e Khalsa, also referred to as Maharaja Ranjit Singh, when they set up anything, and when a Sikh sets up anything, you should always do it with how you're going to benefit mankind and how you're going to benefit everybody. Yeah. You have to obviously have a focus, you know, on your community. You have to learn about your own community to be able to encourage other communities to get on board and evolve as well. But it was always, if you're going to open up a Dharmakistan, you need to have an educational institute. That was compulsory for Gurdwara, for Mandars, Masjid, because it meant everybody's evolving. Yeah. And true equality comes when our playing fields are reflective of the multicultural society we live in. Nobody is going to come and rescue us. We need to know that we have to take active steps as a community ourselves. We have to come together if we want to make something like this happen, and we want to make sure we've got that reflection in those playing fields. Because at the moment, which Sikh is gone into the Olympics from the UK?
Oh, God.
You know, I've not seen a single Sikh from the UK that's gone into the Olympics. So in the UK, there's a lot we need to be doing in terms of sport. We are a COM that's going to have Har Maidan Fateh. It's not all the be-all or end-all. We're going to have our Sikh Games. I personally feel our opening ceremony is going to be nicer than the Olympic opening ceremony.
I think that was a spectacular fail.
I think it is. I mean, when you've got a dance there, of course it's going to be better than anything else.
Yeah, of course it is.
That's inevitable.
You know, and then, you know, we've got something so great to look forward to. It's got so much opportunity, so much potential. Now, I think the message for the Sangat is, and the community is, just come.
Yeah.
If you come on one of those days, just come and learn and see what it is we're trying to do. We've spent 4 years. We've not taken a day off.
Amazing.
You know, there's been days where we've been up until like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, just trying to get stuff done, because we're like, okay, we need to get this out tomorrow. We need to do this tomorrow. The love and the passion, and it's been done in a completely Instagram way. So every single one of us, we have our own jobs. We all do our own thing. Nobody takes anything out of this. Any funding that we raise, it goes purely into the Sikh Games. At the moment, what we're saying to everyone is, all you need to do is buy a ticket. It's not that expensive. Talk to your community Sangat about it. Talk to your family and friends about it. Encourage everybody to turn up. Australia, they managed to bring 150 to 200,000 people together when they do the Sikh Games. But the UK needs to. We've got over 600,000 Sikhs.
I think this can happen.
We need to make sure everybody gets the word out, and we come.
I don't think we've shared where it's happening.
Oh, have we not? Okay.
No.
Are you?
Yeah, we can kind of do that towards the end as well, like where we can find you and how we can book on. Any age can attend, I'm assuming.
Any age
Parents
can
with
attend.
babies and
There's going to be parents and babies. Under 3s are free, but from 3 onwards, there's actually activators for 3-year-olds.
Oh, wow.
Because, you know, when you hear some of these amazing stories from these like champions, a lot of the sport they started, they got familiar with it from the age of 3 to 6. You know, so that is a key age of making children have that exposure. But also, when we think about the Sikh Games, don't think of it as just a youth event. Don't think, bachchiyan ne jana, unhone ne jaake khedna. The Sikh Games belong to every single Sikh. You know, when you look at inspiring our generation, how are we going to make sure our children, our girls, don't stop sport the day they finish school? How are we going to make sure the girls don't stop playing sport the day they get married? How are we going to make sure they carry it on for the rest of their lives? Sikhi, we've got prime examples. You've got Baba Deep Singh Ji. In his 70s, he would go into war and, you know, he would go and fight holding a khanda every single day at home. We do zikr of Baba Deep Singh Ji, Shaheed Baba Deep Singh Ji. We have a khanda at home, and you know, you lift the khanda and you're like, okay, this is really heavy.
His
and you're
khanda
thinking,
was 80,
and his was
80 kg.
And you know, it was so much more expensive, so much more heavier than the one that we have
And
at
he could
our
wield
home.
it with one hand.
You know, and not just hold it. Now, if we took that khanda and we went to every Gurdwara in the UK and we lined up all our 70-year-olds and we said to them, you know what, hold it above your shoulder. Let's see how long you can hold it for.
But we need to.
The reality of us.
That'd
be really good competition.
You should have it at Sikh Games.
Yeah, we have to.
But we need to reignite that passion.
We need to reignite
for
that
health
passion.
and sport,
you know, like,
and mental fitness.
100%. You know, like the narratives like that. I mean, that's meaningful, and it makes you reflect on our identity and where we've come from. And we're losing that a little bit. The physical side especially. And you know, diabetes is the highest in South Asian community, and you know, blood pressure and all the rest of it is because we're not taking, you know, the culture's become sit in front of the TV and and you know, going for a walk
program
because it's raining.
Just program dekh rahe, utth jo.
Don't watch these dramas that come on,
Do
you
some
know.
squats while you're watching the Sikh Games program.
But we really need to get the message out to families. You know, I'm a parent, I've got 3 kids, and my wife's really active. The kids went to judo.
Has she signed up though, Baji? This is a good question. Has she signed up to Birmingham?
The kids have. The kids are in the team.
He's working on it.
The mum needs to be there too. Any mum
signed up, Baji?
Yeah, that's right. You're right. Actually, I'll get us signed up.
आज जाके बस
ਅਸੀਂ
देखना है नाम आ गया.
No, but the message we need to get across is, as a community, as these core family groups, you know, you've got Bibi Baba at home. If you're in an extended family, everybody come out. You know, there's going to be activities for everybody, and you're not going to be sitting on the side just waiting to give a drink to your kids because after they've played their games, there's plenty for you to do as well and get involved in on the day, like Mandeep was saying. So you know, these days, I know people give these ridiculous examples from the Gurdwara stage sometimes. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਪੌਂਡ stage ਉੱਪਰ ਚਾੜ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿਸੇ, you know, for whatever this or that the other, you're going to go to a party, you spend this much. You know, we might spend 80-90 quid to get a ticket into Drayton Manor Park or Towers, you know, and we don't bat an eyelid. Here, for £10 a child, you've got 3 whole days, and you've got the food.
This is so much more than that, isn't it?
It's so much more than that.
This is all about the identity. This is about the community. This is about representation. You know, going forward like the Olympics and beyond that, and it's for the next 10 years, 20 years, and you're forging.
This is the foundation of it all.
Something.
And it also, you know, with the regional competition, because obviously we all like a competition, you know, the whole idea, even at the opening ceremony, when you see your region walking in, everyone is going to realise that there's going to be some regions they've got more people, some that have got less. We hope what it does is it drives people to say, right, okay, they're walking in, we could do that next, you know.
We're going to enter our team next time.
We're going to enter our team, or we're going to sign up, or we're going to be part of this. We've had women that are in their 70s that have not played sport in over 50 years that have signed up to do walking hockey because we created the Sikh Games. And they're doing it in the Salwar
I'll give you an
Kameez.
example. This is a real life example that I saw Mandy do. It's quite funny. So we're at the Birmingham Nagar Kirtan, and Mandy's come to promote the Sikh Games, right? And there's a table, and she probably can't remember this herself.
I can see
She's thinking, what is Baji going to come out with? So she sees
this?
She sees this Biji walk by, and she said to me, she's a sporty one. Just by the way she was walking, and she's like 50, 60 years old. And then she grabs her and starts chatting to her. And honestly, BBG in her prime used to play hockey.
Yeah, and she was the hockey. That was what I was trying to recruit her for.
And Mandy just recognised that this. You can just tell by the way that she's walking. That's it. And and there's so many of our Bibi Baba out there that were probably Khilaris, played all sorts of sports in their prime, and then they emigrated, and it all became about work, and then it became about responsibilities and bringing up the children and education, doctors and lawyers and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And we really lost out on that passion.
But they didn't have a choice.
They didn't have a choice, but we do. And we have got time and choices to make for our children.
And their life is carrying on, right? Like they are, every single day that we're here, they're still waking up every day. They've got an opportunity to still get involved. They've still got an opportunity to try something out. And I used to think it was really sad, when I think about my mum's story, because she was a really good runner. And she got selected to run for Hoshiarpur. And then when, she was so strong, like literally it was like she went for one trial and they were like, yeah, we're going to put her in for our district. And then, nationals, like this, she can do it, right? But of all of her family members, so like all her tae and chache, she had 2 tae. Then it was my papaji, my nanaji, and then he had 2 younger brothers. He was the second one to get married, but the first one to have a child. So my mum's the oldest child. Now, by the time she's a teenager, a lot of the tae and chache have now got kids as well. And when my papaji is really excited, he comes home and he says, oh yeah, mainu pauna, meri kudi ne kadan India le khedna hai na, bhajjugi meri kudi, hai na. And the taiyan and chachiyan all turned around, started saying to my nanny that je ek karon bahar gayi, te sade bachchiyan de biyah nahi hone.
Oh my God!
These are common stories, though. But their kids can do anything they want, but your kids can't do this.
You can't do this. But you know what the thing is? The holdback. Then, my nanny ji is trying to explain to my papa ji, like, look, we live in a joint house. We can't have kalesh in our house because of this. Like, it's unrealistic what you're trying to do. Let's not let that happen. And the other day, I think a couple of weeks ago, there was a tournament, the KFF tournament, and my niece, who's now 9 years old, she goes and she wins a medal.
Well,
and then she comes home and she puts it around my mum's neck. And my mum starts crying.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, then I had to phone Darpal, our regional lead for Berkshire. And I was like, listen, you better find my mum a hockey team because she signed up. I really wanted to play.
That is emotional.
But you know what?
These are traumas.
These are traumas,
that carry on.
Yeah.
But then subconsciously that could affect the next generation. And
100%.
I didn't get a chance, so you got no chance. And
and
unfortunately, it's not something that they do intentionally, but it becomes a habit.
Everyone's seen this
That's
scene.
all they know.
Everyone's seen the scene in Bend It Like Beckham.
Yeah.
Remember when the dad wanted to be the hockey player, and now the daughter wants to be the footballer.
Yeah, you must have this fear that you don't want your child to go through the same pain that you went through,
It's
right?
education, and it's like education, then marriage and family.
Yeah.
It's like, who are you?
Yeah.
Can we do these? And yesterday I captured an amazing event about South Asian women climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, and they were talking stories about one of the ladies who went on this expedition.
Rupi Kaur.
Asian woman in business.
Yeah, with that.
And one of the ladies, Sartaaj, she was so emotional the way this event was captured. And she was like, all I was told was you have to be a good wife, you have to be a good mum. And, there's a narrative in there where she's making roti for it. It's like you need to be good at making food and looking after your family.
Yeah.
But she found herself, she goes, it's like I gave rebirth to myself doing this expedition.
Yeah.
I mean, it's this powerful.
Yeah.
And these are stories.
It's so
and,
powerful.
we all, we think about our growing up journey, and hopefully this next generation we can empower. And if you want to be something, talk about it. See yourself in it. Visualize. You had a vision and it came to your life. It started with a thought.
Yeah.
And if you have that thought, let's empower. any little child that wants to go out and do something.
And
this
also,
is something,
the more you put that thought out, the more it evolves.
Because
it needs to evolve.
Manifest it.
You have to manifest it, but also you don't know who's listening. And so for the last 7 years, I've been, organising Vaisakhi at Trafalgar Square. We have 35,000 people there. The number of people that have come up to me and said, "Oh, Mandeep, we'd really like to do hosting, or we'd really like to do these things," and it's about creating opportunities. One of the girls was Shani Danda. She's now she's massive. She hosted there. And she's a disability rights advocate. And now she's hosting the opening ceremony for the Sikh Games. Amazing. So she's done so many things.
So
we did the slot at the Trafalgar Square as well. And I'm like, you're doing the UK's, possibly one of the biggest celebrations as UK Sikhs we've ever had in the UK. Yeah. To bring us all together, whether or not we're closely, associated, we're more dharmic or we're more closely associated to the culture, whatever it may be, this is the biggest project that is looking to bring every single corner to the UK. Yeah. We have driven through Scotland down to Southampton to try and bring this community together. And that girl's now hosting that opening, and this is so important because you just don't know who's listening. You don't know where we are, but I think we should really kind of have that kind of approach. One of the things that I was going to actually mention was, I used to think my mum's story was really sad because she knew what she wanted to do and she couldn't do it. We put up, we had a stall at another tournament, and I was talking to this Bibiji, and I've got a habit because whenever I sit down and talk to her, I knew this Bibiji wasn't sporty though, but I did ask her all the right questions, right? Because I just had to try and explore it a little bit more. And I said, who are you here to watch? And she said, "Oh, my 2 grandchildren are playing football." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "When you were younger, tusi kedi khed khedde hunde si?" And she goes, "Main ta khedi nahi." Because I'm used to hearing the stories from my aunts who stopped school when they were year 12 or year 13 and things like that, right? Yeah. But this Bibiji, she finished school when she was in year 5.
So imagine year 5 is at age what? Were you talking about?
So imagine how young she would have been.
Like end of primary school.
End of primary school, even younger
year
than that.
6 is
even
10
younger
and 11,
than that.
So you're talking about
about 8, 9-year-old.
8, 9-year-old. But that was the last time she would have done any sport to a point. How sad is it? So sad. That's when her sporting journey ended. As a community, if we want to remain tiyar par tiyar, we want to remain physically, mentally active to be able to do all the stuff we want to do, to inspire the next generation to say your sport is going to carry on until the rest. We can invest in properties, for our children. We can say, right, we've gifted them a house. Yeah. If we gift them a lifestyle and if we showcase to them that we remained healthy up until our very last day, physically, mentally active, you're leaving such a strong message to your community, to your children, to your next generations, to your grandchildren, Hannah.
So talking about mental health, physical is such, mental health is such a high as well. Yeah. We mentioned diabetes, we mentioned blood pressure and all these things that are such a common, problem we have. Mental health is so high at the moment as well. Stress and depression. And
the lack of belonging, social media, all of these things come in.
Sports is it's one of the cures, I think.
It is.
To
community.
Health.
And prevents most of the stuff if you have that lifestyle.
Yeah. The messages, we get so many messages, literally, the amount of messages we get on social media for the Sikh Games is insane. But we've had so many people that have said, we're so looking forward to this. We've had people that said to us, when we had to postpone them last year, we had the number of messages we got from people. And honestly, it was the hardest thing to read because people are saying, we were really looking forward to this. This was something that we were in our mind, this was the most thing, it's really impacted us. And we were like, we've got to really make sure that we go even bigger and better, and it's just going to be amazing. But the effect that it has on people when they're training towards something, people are taking it so, we've had messages from people. We posted something the other day as well, where you've got somebody who's an 83-year-old, used to be a runner in India, came here in his 60s, and actually he didn't have the funding or he didn't have the means or the understanding of how he's going to go into competition. He's now coming and running at the Sikh Games. Amazing. And he is the most excited than ever. And to be able to do that for the community, and I think the number of people that have been able to connect through this project, I actually don't think, although we're going to get impact assessments done, I don't think we are going to be able to fully ever encapsulate the impact it's made on our community.
Yeah.
You know, you've got in Leicester...
It's the ripples that...
The ripple effect, yeah.
You just don't know.
There's actually a family in Leicester where you've got the grandma signed up. She goes home and she tells her daughter, the daughter's in her 40s, she signed up as a volunteer. She then messages us to say, my mum signed up to compete. I've signed up as a volunteer, but I used to be a really good runner. Is it okay if I transfer and I become a runner? We were like, yeah, absolutely. She's got a teenage daughter who plays football. Imagine this, you've got 3 generations of women coming into the UK's first competition. One family, 3 generations. And actually, as a community, that needs to be the story of every single family.
And also for the men.
Everyone needs to be doing it.
Also for the men, the dads
Yeah,
couldn't
absolutely.
pursue. They worked in factories or whatever labour work they came to do. They had to drop those dreams. It's just as important both ways because, you know, they get stuck running the household. You know, the mums are running things at home and that balance.
And people have this guilt as well, right? Like they think, you know, if we go out and we take this hour out for ourselves, you know, people are going to think, actually, you know, the dialogue around sport and around health and wellness, to be able to give your 100% mentally and physically to your family, you need to invest in your own health. It's okay for you to take that hour to go and train so that you can bring your best version back to your family. And we need to normalize that. We need to know that as a community, it's okay for us to be able to invest in ourselves. And not only should we be investing, we should be empowering our partner and working out how both people can, both parts of that partnership can go and do that and get involved and help themselves, whatever it might be. And I'm not just saying it's with sport, but, you know, for you, it might be, you know, sitting and literally, you know, getting out, you know, a paintbrush and getting a canvas out and doing something for you. But it is okay to take that time out to do something for yourself.
It's been, I think, you know, these conversations have been so amazing. We can go on forever, but I think we do need to wrap up.
Let's wrap it up.
And just please let the audience know how they can book on, where to find it, the dates, and, you know, you've shared so much more, and register and book so you can share some details.
What would you like to take? Would you want to talk about the opening ceremony, Pudgy? I'll let you take that away.
Sure.
I'll let you take that one away.
Well, the opening ceremony is at Nottingham Ice Arena. Is that correct?
The National Ice Centre.
On the 15th of August, and we've got some Punjabi superstars there, right? Satinder, Sartaaj, who you probably would have to spend at least £50-60 to go and see.
Or £350.
Or £350 if you wanted VIP.
Is it www.thesikgames.com?
Yes, so the website's www.thesikgames.com, and there's 2 opportunities to buy tickets there. So either the opening ceremony, which is on Thursday evening, and the games themselves are on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. The opening ceremony, you've got Satinder Sartaaj there, Jazzy and Dhami. But this is not a Punjabi concert. It's going to be a full dharmic event.
And the importance of head coverings, will that be provided or do you bring people?
We want to try and encourage everyone to bring head coverings. And then, of course, if there are people that haven't got head coverings, we'll supply them as well. But please, apniyan chunniyan leke aayo. Dastara ban ke aayo, saj ke aayo. It's your UK's first Sikh Games. Let's come together. Let's show everybody, you know, that our community can come together. Let's create something. Let's create a legacy. The more you coming is our support, you know. So please make sure you come, support the project, try out, make the most of the project, you know, because there's gone so much work has gone into preparing this. Come and make the most of the facilities that are there. Bring your families, get the word out. They're your Sikh Games as much as they are ours. So please be there, please support, and we will see you all there from the 15th to the 18th of August.
You know what, thank you so much for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to go home and book my tickets. And it's been so nice to have you guys and sharing your vision and this come to life.
Thank you.
I really do hope it's a massive success. I can't see it, you know, all I can see is this just going bigger and bigger. So well done, Mandeep.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to Sangat Studio Podcast. Do subscribe to Sangat Studio Podcast as well.